the last thing that I wanted to share with you, which I thought was really important, is getting your shit together requires a level of honesty that you cannot even imagine. There is nothing easy about realizing that you're the one who's been holding you back this entire time. I want to pause there for a second. I just want you to think about that statement, because I was thinking, I don't even know where the statement came from for me to write it. But I just wrote the statement and I thought, boy, wow, Kasim, I don't even know where that came from. But let me just repeat it because it's so significant. Getting your shit together requires a level of honesty that you cannot even imagine. There is nothing easy about realizing that you're the one who's been holding you back this entire time. That is a very powerful statement. So let me go into it briefly. 1. Could it be that the reason why you're not getting some of the things that you want is because of you? 2. Could it be that you've spent all of this time focusing and blaming on everybody and everyone around you and your parents and your mum and your dad and your society and the government, to the degree that if you were to accept that you had something to do with your life, with the way your life has turned out, that you would also realize that you have the power to change it. And if you accept that you have the power to change it, then it means all of this time you have allowed yourself to get into the state that you're in, not because other factors weren't present, but because you decided to focus on the other things instead of yourself. I love what Michael Jackson once said. Michael Jackson said that if you want to change the world, start with the man in the mirror. I love what Jim Rohn said. Jim Rohn said, if you want things to change, you will have to change. He said, if you want things to get better, you will have to get better. Man, I remember those statements. They were impactful for me. You know, on the day that I had the bailiff come to my door, and the bailiff made my mum cry and said to my mum, look, Kasim is in debt and we need to gain access to your home and we need to repossess anything that's his, sell it so that we can settle this debt. When I came home and I saw my mum crying, I said, this can never happen again. And part of the journey that I had to go on to is, Cass, you've allowed this to happen. Like, nobody has forced you not to pay your payday loans. Nobody has forced you to give money to other people. Nobody has forced you to spend all this money on partying and all of these different things. Nobody has forced you to do any of this. In fact, Kasim, you know how stubborn you are. Most people cannot persuade you to do very few people in your life, Kaz, can persuade you to do something you don't want to do. Which means, I know that the bailiff have been chasing you. I know that they gave you the money. I know of all the other things. But the reality of life is, Cass, you've had something to do with this. Which means that there is something erroneous. You're making some choices, Cass, that they ain't good. Because if all your choices that you've been making were that fantastic, you wouldn't be in this situation. Would you, Cass? And that was a revelation for me, because what that did is it said, oh, Cass, you're gonna have to improve something about you, bro. Like, Cass, I know you're a good guy, I know you're doing your best, blah blah blah, but listen, the things that you're doing are not good. They ain't working. Cass, you say you're a good person, but yet you're in debt, but yet you're making your mum cry, right? How does that work? Well, that makes no sense. But you're lying to your mum about the fact that you're in debt when you know you're in debt. How does that work? Well, there isn't a level of character. There is no integrity within you. And I was like, oh my days. I remember going through this with myself. And when this happens, in psychology, this is called cognitive dissonance. Tony Robbins says that the strongest force in the human psyche is the need to stay congruent with how you define yourself. In other words, if you think you're a winner, you'll always behave like a winner. If you think you're an introvert, you will always behave like an introvert. If you think you're confident, you will always behave like confident, right? And when you decide that you are going to behave in a way that is not consistent with how you think you are, it causes this terminology called cognitive dissonance. It's basically a war, right? Imagine there is a war. There is a war inside of you where you're saying, but I want to change. But one side of you is saying, but that's not who we are. Why would we want to change who we are? And this tug of war is so much, and it causes so much anguish. Studies have shown that most people revert back to their normal, right? This is why it's so difficult for people to quit smoking or gambling, because when you start smoking or drinking, your self-image is that I am a smoker, which is part of the reason why, if you've ever been on any stop smoking courses or anything like that, the first thing that they try to do is to change the way you see smoking, right? They don't tell you to start cutting down. The first thing they want you to do is to change the way you see smoking. Because people who do not smoke do not see smoking in the same way as people who do smoke. Somebody who doesn't smoke sees smoke as like it's disgusting. Somebody who smokes will see smoking as disgusting, but they're like, yeah, but it's not that disgusting. Do you understand? In other words, what I'm saying is, somebody who smokes is appalled. Their emotionally, their self-image, the way they see themselves is as a smoker. And what I'm going to share with you is that, and it's really the basis of what I'm trying to get to you here is, you've got to start being honest with yourself. I call it, when I coach people, I call it radical truth. Radical truth is where you got to start being brutally honest. Guys, listen to me. Most people live in denial. Most people do not tell the truth, right? To the degree where most people don't even look at the scales. Most people, if you ask most people how much do you weigh, they have no idea. If you ask most people how much money do you have in your bank account, tell me how much money is in your bank account, they have no idea. They couldn't tell you that. Well, I haven't checked, right? If you ask most people how much money they're going to need to save for their pension, they have no clue, right? If you ask most people, what are your goals over the next 5 years? They have no clue. Most people live in denial. We don't want to talk about it. We're wishful people. Most of us close our eyes and we pretend it will work out. Obviously, we know that strategy doesn't work, right? Most of us have employed this strategy, but yet many of us still attempt to go down that route. And when you start getting down the path of accountability, of dealing with a radical truth, of doing what J.K. Rowling once said, which is J.K. Rowling said that there is an expiry date on blaming your parents for steering you in the wrong direction. The moment you're old enough to take the steering wheel, you've got to take over. The moment you start taking accountability for your life and you actually start looking at yourself and saying, do you know what? Maybe there is something about me that is kind of not refined. Maybe I am a bit of a dick to people. Maybe whenever I do get in relationships, I do push people away, right? And that isn't a good thing. And I'm going to need to work on that. Maybe when I'm in work, I am selfish and it is all about me, right? And because I am selfish and it is all about me and I want to become a winner, the issue is I never really look to play as a team. And because I don't look to play as a team, whilst I'm actually successful, I have no friends. I have nobody who would back me. It's interesting. Let me finish off with this. I've been recently making some journal notes about this question. Why does the hero always win? I've been wanting to know this. You know, in every single movie that you watch, the hero always wins. The only movie I've ever watched where the heroes for one moment don't win, well, technically speaking, it didn't win, but the only movie I've ever watched where the villain wins is, of course, the Avengers, right? Infinity War. But obviously, as we all know, he doesn't actually end up winning. But my point being is, every movie that I can think of where there's a hero and a villain, the hero always wins. So I was like, why? Why does the hero always win? Do you know why one of the reasons I wrote down that if you think about every single movie, the hero always has backup. Every single time. Anytime the hero is down and is about to be defeated, the hero always has backup. The bad guy doesn't have backup. And if he has backup, his backup is never as great as the heroes. Here's what I'm saying to you. If you don't look at some of the errors in your life, look at some of the mistakes that you're making, look at some of the choices that you're making, and realize that actually there is something about you that is, it's off, right? It needs refinement. It needs touching up. If you don't accept that, and you don't really look at it with radical truth, I'm telling you, it ain't going away. Closing your eyes is not going to make all of these problems disappear. You've got to face it head on. And this is why I say it takes another level of brutal honesty to genuinely be able to look at yourself and actually see that you are the person who's holding you back. Everything that you want in this world is possible for you. It's there. You know it, right? You've seen other people get it. So clearly you can have it. The problem is, and the issue is, you're going to need to refine certain aspects of you which you're refusing to recognize, which you're refusing to see are faults and errors. But if you will do that, imagine where you could be in 5 years. I don't know. I just wanted to share it with you and something for you to think about. But that brings this week's journal entries to a close.